Hi, it's Christy here, and welcome back to Spacious Success. In today's episode, I want to bust one of the most common productivity myths out there, and that is that multitasking equates to working harder. If you've ever found yourself, like me, trying to do all the things all at once and feeling like you're dropping the ball anyway, this episode will show you, in fact, I'm going to explain why. By the end, you'll understand what's really happening in your brain when you attempt to constantly switch tasks, the mental juggle, and some of the practical tools that you can use to reclaim your focus and your time. So let's jump in. I want to tell you a story, a day that goes nowhere. Let me paint a picture for you. I hear this from clients all of the time. You wake up, you open your laptop, you reach for your phone. Before you know it, you haven't even had your first sip of coffee in the office and you're in your inbox. You're triaging your Teams chats. You answer a couple of quick emails. You check Slack or Teams messages once again. You respond to a got a sec email and suddenly it's 11:45 a.m. You haven't eaten, you haven't moved, and that big important project, the one that you swore that you'd tackle today, well, it's still sitting there untouched, just as it was every single day last week. So you tell yourself, I'm going to do it after lunch, except lunch rolls around and after lunch, it becomes meeting after meeting, then more of these emails, and then before you know it, it's 5 o'clock. You've been busy all day, but have you been productive? Probably not so much. Does this sound familiar? You see, we have adopted old productivity, outdated productivity models. This happens because so many of us, even today, are still trying to work to an outdated, industrialized era model of productivity. One that says the more hours you put in, the more output you'll get out. Now, that model may have worked when it meant that we were producing widgets on a production line. But today, very few of us are operating on a conveyor belt. We need to run on our biology. And our biology, well, it has biological constraints, limits. You see, there are some productivity hijackers. Let's look at 4 of the biggest culprits that might be stealing your day. Constant context switching. Every time you jump between tasks, tabs, or conversations, you pay what we call a switch cost. Multiply that by the dozens of times each day your brain is fried by lunch. When you go from your inbox to a spreadsheet, you're leaving behind what Sophie Leroy calls attention residue. Imagine it like little fragments of your thinking, your thoughts are on the previous task. We do this throughout our days. The next thing is our always-on culture. Availability creep convinces you that you need to be responsive. It means being permanently reachable, always on. But what it really robs you of is deep focused work and often your ability and time to have a psychological break from your work. This is why I help teams establish their digital guardrails to explicitly articulate what some of our digital norms, practices, and principles are. How do we communicate after hours? Do we have a communication escalation plan? Next one is attention residue. Every ping, buzz, and alert leaves mental residue that drags your focus long after the interruption. In fact, research tells us that if we're distracted by chatty Kathy in the office or talkative Tom or the ping of a notification, whilst we're doing our focused work, it takes the average adult around 23 minutes and 15 seconds to get back into that deep focus state. It's the resumption lag. And the 4th one is productivity theatre. I think we spend our days today often looking busy of moving the needle, back-to-back meetings, endless email chains, and the performance of productivity without any actual real progress. Too many of us are spending our days doing work about work. You're not imagining it. Microsoft research, and this was based on usage data, suggests that around 57% of our workdays are now communicating, emails, Teams chats, and meetings. A mere 43% of our days is actually doing the work. Talk about workplace performance and productivity theatre. Here's what the science says. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that handles planning, decision-making, executive function, it's responsible chiefly for your focus. Well, your prefrontal cortex only has a 4 to 6 hour battery life per day, 4 to 6 hours of peak output. Push beyond that and your quality will take a nosedive. Now, I'm not saying, don't misconstrue this, that you should only work a 4 to 6 hour workday. What I am saying is that in order for your brain to perform at its peak, you've got basically a 4 to 6 hour window per day. So if you're consistently pumping out 14-hour days, you are working against your human operating system. We know your working memory, that mental post-it note that you use to juggle information, well, it maxes out quickly when it's cluttered. So half-finished thoughts from previous interruptions will erode it. We know we get stuck in the dopamine adrenaline loop. It keeps us addicted to checking our emails and Teams messages because we crave, as humans, novelty. Our brains love new things. And so this keeps us stuck in reaction mode instead of creation mode. Another thing we're doing is ignoring our ultradian rhythms. We naturally have a 90-minute cycle, which is an energy peak and then a dip. And many of us are missing a really simple way to supercharge our productivity. We know, and many of my clients work in 90-minute sprints. I call them digital dashes. And then we pause for some recovery. And this protocol, this cadence, dramatically improves our productivity and performance. So why are ambitious women feeling like these distractions are more acute for them? Ambitious women often feel these hijackers even more acutely. There's something called the digital double burden. Work emails plus school apps, sports group, dentist reminders on our phones, family logistics on WhatsApp, just to name a few. There's the mental and caring load, keeping track of all the invisible tasks that rarely get written on a to-do list, but often must get done, so your child doesn't forget to turn up to school in mufti clothes on Tuesday, and you don't forget to contribute to grandma's birthday gift contribution. These are the things that often clog your to-do list, but have to make it to the calendar. Unfortunately, we've adopted a multitasking myth. Research tells us that it doesn't save us time. It literally burns brain fuel. We call this glucose, and we do this when we attempt to multitask. Between stress, changes in hormones, and the invisible mental load and the digital double burden, many women simply aren't getting the restorative sleep that their brains and bodies need for focused work. I see this in my clients' wearable data on Whoop straps and Oura rings. So how do we recalibrate your productivity? How do we stop these hijackers from denting our performance? The first thing is to work in digital dashes. Treat your focus like a sprint, not a marathon. Work with your ultradian rhythm. So work in roughly 90-minute bursts, or maybe start with 45 minutes and increase to 90. Then recover. Research tells us, and my clients' data tells us, this bolsters our performance. Set some digital guardrails of your own. Turn off your non-essential notifications, batch your emails, create VIP lists so when you're on focus mode, you do not get your attention diverted by these non-essential notifications. Number 3, monotask, don't multitask. Choose your high priority, potent tasks that you can do each day and stay until it's complete. Avoid distractions. Layer in your chronotype. We're going to do a whole episode about this. This is the natural peaks in your energy and focus. This is how you work with rather than against your human operating system. I want you to know that productivity isn't about doing more. Please breathe a sigh of relief. It's about doing what matters when your brain and body are best equipped to do it, without letting the hijackers run the show or dent your performance. Your success doesn't depend on you being always on. It depends on you being strategically on. It relies on a powered up high-res version of you. In our next episode, we'll dive into the science of sustainable peak performance. What are the rhythms and the recovery rituals that allow you, an accomplished woman, to achieve big results, but without the side of burnout? Until then, choose just one strategy from today's episode and try it. Not all 3, just one. Your future self will thank you in trying to break up with multitasking. If this episode landed for you, share it with a friend. Send the link to a colleague. The colleague who's constantly busy but feels like they're never caught up. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Because I want to share with you that working harder isn't the answer. Working with your human operating system, your HOS, is the trick. And that's exactly what I want to share with you.